Okay, everyone, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Book Boat. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jocelyn, and my other co-host.
Hi, everybody. I'm Alejandra.
And today we are recording this topic on the most perfect day ever. But before we get started with that, Alejandra, how are you? How is teaching?
I'm good. I feel like teaching, we've kind of gotten into a nice pattern now. I think it's more of like my life outside of teaching that has become a little complicated. We are redoing the flooring in my house. So if you guys hear a noise, I'm really sorry. Which is why I'm also in a different setup. I've usually been teaching and filming in my dining room, and I've now been pushed to the kitchen since we aren't doing that floor. It's really exciting. I think this has been much needed. This is very not the topic we're talking about, but yeah, I'm really excited. I'm also painting my room, which has been a lovely neon green because as a teenager, I thought that was a great idea. It's going to be more of a neutral color now, so I'm super excited. But it's definitely made teaching a little bit different where like I've had to kind of not rush things, but I'm trying to make sure they can't hear the noise of like all the stuff that's going on with the flooring. So that's been interesting. I do have back to school night tomorrow, which I'm a little nervous about. I'm not used to Zooming with adults, parents, so that's definitely going to be interesting. But I'm kind of excited. I mean, it's definitely one. I think I'm in a weird position where I actually enjoy back to school night. I enjoy meeting the parents. I've just obviously never done it on Zoom, so I don't know what to expect. But the kids are great. I love them. I have a really great group. But yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like we're in a routine now, which is kind of nice thinking back to like how we started. But yeah, how are you doing?
Good. One, I'm jealous that you're actually having like a back to school night. My school did like a giant one before school even started, is what I like to call it. Like they did kind of like an orientation, but there was no really like back to school night. So I was like, oh, I kind of missed that. But it's understandable, and my students are just getting into a routine, and we are kind of doing like intern because I teach at a middle school. So we did like a benchmark testing school wide, and so it's going to be very interesting to kind of see like what students are retaining from the past like 9 weeks of teaching. So we'll see. I'm kind of a little nervous.
I mean, it's kind of nice to like see what they actually remember that you showed them. It's like, wow, like they actually really stuck with them. So I'm sure they're going to do great. And, you know, I'm sure they're going to remember a lot of the things you've been teaching them.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No, that's pretty much has just been it. I feel like the like weeks go by like really, really fast. I know that before like we started releasing episodes, we decided like, oh, every other week recording and every other week like releasing the episodes, and I was like, oh my god, that is so long. But now like I'm like in the routine of like teaching and grading, and all of a sudden like Monday comes around, I was like, oh no, like
yeah, it goes by real quick. Where I mean, like, yeah, at first when we started this, I was like, I wonder if it's gonna feel too like far away and like we're not gonna be in it. But then like this Monday comes, I'm like, whoa, that was quick. Like I felt like we just recorded our last episode. But it's always nice being able to catch up for a bit.
Yes, no, absolutely. It is very nice to catch up, and I do look forward to like recording this. It's been a fun ride so far, and so it is the kind of like my little like thing that I look forward to after 2 weeks. With that being said, let's go ahead and dive into our topic for this week's episode, and we decided to do this. One reason is that when this episode is going to be released, it's going to be around Thanksgiving time, and it just so happens to be that we're recording this episode on Indigenous People Day. And it's about Native Americans, and all Indigenous people is the topic of our podcast today, and how we need to include more of their stories within our curriculum, and just kind of give students more of a positive outlook of, and like let them know like their culture is still alive and well today, and it's not just something of the past. And so we picked two interesting books. Who'd like to go first?
Do you mind if I share the quote first? Actually,
go
I kind
for
of
it.
to maybe set it up. So Jocelyn's been great where she's kind of let me pick a lot of the topics beforehand, and I'm super thankful. But she was the one who actually picked this topic, and I was a little nervous at first because I didn't feel like I know this topic super well, but it also kind of inspired me, and like I need to obviously then learn more about this and be more aware. And like she was saying, we are recording this on Indigenous Peoples Day, and there's been obviously like a lot of quotes and information that's been going around on Instagram, and I found this quote that I think is kind of important, and I think it sums things up pretty well, at least in my opinion. And it's by Bailey Champagne, I believe, and it's a tribal citizen of the United, Huma Nation for NPR. Hopefully I said that right. I'm sorry. And it says, it's about celebrating people instead of thinking about somebody who actually caused genocide on a population or tried to cause the genocide of an entire population. By bringing Indigenous Peoples Day, we're bringing awareness that we're not going to allow someone like that to be glorified into a hero because of the hurt that he caused to Indigenous people of America. And I just think it's really important because, I mean, growing up, you know, it was always kind of taught differently. And now definitely getting a different perspective, I think, is very important. And it's something that I learned in our history class was just that, like, there's more than one side to every story. And I think it's very important to teach our students to just kind of make sure they're aware that there can be different sides and that not everything that's presented is one-sided. But yeah, so definitely an important topic. I think we picked some really great books. I don't know if you want to go for it. We didn't decide this.
Yeah, no, I guess I'll go first.
Okay.
But I wanted to add something about how what you had said about it's something that we don't really learn about. And I don't know, I think you follow the unconscious child, or it's the conscious child, not unconscious. Sorry, I always get that wrong in my head. But if you follow the conscious child, they're an Instagram account, and it's just about it's social justice based and about all these other things that we really don't notice. And today they had a very, what I like to call, very powerful post about how I think the post started, it's like, yeah, sure, you can celebrate Christopher Columbus Day, but this is what you're celebrating. And it was like, even still, even though that I've read all of it and I've done the research behind it, still seeing it is like very, very shocking to me that it's this, like, all this, the genocide he committed, the like horrible things that he was doing to Indigenous people, and how like he basically started the slave trade. And it's still reading it is very shocking to me. And I know this is gonna be a very bad comparison. And I feel like I don't say this. I feel like I should not say this. But as I was reading that, all I can think of is we don't have a day for Hitler.
Yeah.
And I granted, like, Hitler was he's more on like the modern times, but it's like to me, like, seeing Christopher Columbus Day is like, and reading like all the stuff he does, like, it's comparable to that. Like, we don't have a day for Hitler. Like, why are we still like all the like he discovered America? And it's like, okay, he did not discover America. Let's all get that one straight. But still, it was just kind of like this very like shocking thing of like, well, like, you guys are all okay celebrating him, but then all of a sudden, like, if we were to have a Hitler Day, they'd be like, no, that's terrible. But it's like, he's as comparable to that. Like, it was a mass genocide that he did commit, and we can probably edit that out decide. But that's like just what I was thinking in my head. But
I think it is interesting, and then after you said that, it kind of makes me wonder. Well, I don't know, because this is obviously digging a lot deeper. Who knows if this will make it or not? But then it made me think of, like, I don't know, is it because Christopher Columbus did it against Native Americans who were maybe of like darker skin tone, and like that caused a bigger difference? You know, there's just a lot of what ifs, and I don't know. But then I also went to think about, is this because of tradition? Like you did say, it was so long ago, and some people just hold on to tradition so like hard, and that they don't always want to see the other side. But I think that's like a whole other debate and talk. Like, it is like, it's kind of sad that it's taken this long to like, and it's still not even like totally in all states, I believe. Like,
even it's so funny because even on my iPhone, I get the notifications when a holiday's coming up, and then it gave me the notifications for Indigenous People Day, but then in parentheses it said regional, and so I was like, So like some regions are like, and then but then it said the same thing for Christopher Columbus Day. It was like Christopher Columbus Day regional. So it's like they're still trying of this like, well, it's whatever you, and it's like no, people like committed mass genocide. Like let's get that through, but it's okay. Some people are holding on to those traditions, like you said. But before we get too off topic and we go down this deep rabbit hole, let's go ahead and get started. So the books that we picked, we picked for certain reasons. We wanted to show Native Americans and Indigenous people in a more like modern setting, because I feel like the books, well, at least for me, I feel like the books that I have read, it like goes back to like when they were on like the reservations back in the day, like this, or like this is how the Ohlone people were living if you're like in San Jose or like around this area. And I wanted to pick more books where it's like you're learning about them now, about how they're still making their culture, or still like they're still making their culture alive and just amazing. So the book I picked is called Bow Wow Powwow by Brenda J Child, and it's illustrated by Jonathan Thunder, and it's translated. And this is why I really like this book, is that I've found a lot of books where they have the English version and then they're like translated to the Spanish version. And we've discussed some of those books too. This book is translated into Ojibwe by Gordon Jourdain, and he is from La Croix First Nation. So all of these people like have grown up in areas or are part of the like tribe, or like are known people. So it's like we talk about like, oh, like who is writing the book, who are they part of the culture, and these people are. So Brenda J Child, she was actually a professor of American Studies for the school that she was working at, for the college that she was working at, and she was also part of the Department of American Indian Studies. So she's actually written several books, several award-winning books, and they all tend to be on like American Indian subjects and like perspectives on in the history of Indigenous education, all this stuff. And she won a book, or she won an award, the American Indian Book Award, and the best book in Midwestern history for her 2014 book, My Grandfather's Knocking Sticks, Ojibwe Family Life and Labor on the Reservation. So she's like very like, she knows a lot about this culture and about, so she's very well versed. And so I feel like this book gives an accurate, what is that word I'm trying to think of? Like an accurate description.
It's like authentic, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. Authentic view into this culture that a lot of children may not know. So the book focuses on Windy Girl. And one, I love the names. Like, and you're going to talk about it in your book too.
Yeah.
But like Native American names they're very, very like significant. And so it's like, I love that it wasn't just like a Jennifer, nothing against these names, but it wasn't like a Jennifer or anything. Like it's an actual like Windy Girl. And then so the thing is Windy Girl and Itchy Boy. And she's been gathering stories from her uncle. And then when her uncle and Itchy Boy attend a powwow, she like watches and listens, and she like sees this culture about this powwow, and like powwows are very significant. And she ends up actually falling asleep, and then she has this like dream about the stories that her uncle told her, and she has like her own little powwow in her head. And it's just so cute, because she does it kind of in like a modern sense of like, oh, now we're at the powwow festival, and it's like all these different snacks that they're eating, and it just gives like a really nice authentic glimpse into their world. And I think this would be very cool for children to see and be like, hey, like they're still doing this, like this isn't like a thing of the past, like these cultures are very alive and well and thriving. So I think that's what I really enjoyed about it. What are 3 questions? Who is in the story?
Yeah, because you kind of answered who writes the story.
Who writes the story, yes.
Who benefits?
All of them. I think everybody benefits from the story on this, because it gives like I said, it gives that really authentic look into Native American culture. So I think it benefits everyone. I think this is a great book to kind of get students being like, okay, well, this is one tribe. Like, can you imagine what it's like to be from another tribe, or like then you can kind of tie it into like, okay, we learned about this tribe in this book. Like we're from San Jose, and so we have the Ohlone tribe here. Like where are there's still Ohlone tribe members around? Like start getting them to research that. I think that'd be very interesting.
Yeah.
And who's missing from the stories? I honestly do not think anybody's missing. It has both like male and female characters. It has people from the actual culture. So I don't think anybody's missing from this. Yeah.
It's always so great when no one's missing.
Yes, I love that.
It sounds like a good book. I hadn't heard of it before, but I definitely want to check it out. Yeah, and I think it's super. I mean, I really like the part where you related it to like these are things that are happening now, because sometimes they can seem so distant. And I think that's super important. My niece is actually part Native American, so growing up, I would hear. When she'd come back, she'd like tell me about the powwow she went to, and even to this day, it's something that like she looks forward to, and we've talked about it. And I think it's awesome that these traditions are still happening, because it is so important to keep passing them on to future generations. And I think important for people who maybe aren't part of it to maybe learn about it. I think it's something that is part of our history, and it should be learned, and we should know more about it.
Yes, absolutely.
So like I was mentioning, so Jocelyn picked this topic, and I was a little apprehensive at first because I normally have a book in mind for like everything that I'm gonna share. I'm just like such a book nerd, but I didn't really know what I wanted to share. I had a few, but things are so weird right now with my classroom still kind of being in boxes. I don't have everything out. So I like started asking people, which I actually asked from our cohort. I was like, can I shout you guys out? Because you guys recommended these books. I know Alyssa shared some books, and Alyssa actually listens to us, she says, on usually the weekends. So thank you for listening, Alyssa. And I believe Gabby also shared some books with me, so I definitely appreciate that. And I think Jocelyn actually recommended this book as well. So this book was recommended, I think, by all three, or at least two, and it's called Thunder Boy Jr., and it's by Sherman Alexie, and it's illustrated. Oh no, hold on. I think we might have to edit this, but my phone says it's trying to. Okay, it was like reconnecting, but it's working now.
Okay, we can always edit it.
Yeah. If not, funny, we're having technical difficulties. This happens. So it's called Thunder Boy Jr., and it's by Sherman Alexie, and it's illustrated by Yuyi Morales. And I like when I was first told about this book, I looked it up and I saw that the author is Sherman Alexie. And when I was in high school, I actually read. Oh man, I wrote this down because I always say it wrong. Where did I write it? Oh man, I read one of his chapter books in high school where it was like, oh, I don't want to butcher it, but it's like the incredibly, I'm gonna have to look this up, but I read his chapter book in high school, and I really enjoyed it. So I was really excited to see that he had a children's book, The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian. So I read this in high school, and I thought it was super interesting, and I started to watch some of the interviews he had done. And Sherman Alexie is actually born in Spokane, Washington, and his writings draw on his experience as an Indigenous American with ancestry from several tribes. So I definitely think I personally really like it when the books are kind of written by somebody who's representing that culture or the topic or the thing that the book's about. So I was really excited because I knew the author to read it. The illustrator, Morales, is actually Mexican American, and she's the first Latina to be a Caldecott recipient, which I thought was really awesome. And something that also attracts me to the books is the illustrations, and these illustrations are amazing. I really love them. If you're watching their video, I'm showing the book a little bit, but I just love how like the colors on it are so vibrant, and I don't know, I'm like a big sucker for the artwork. I think it's super cute. The characters are adorable. So anyways, the book is about, I'll read the synopsis. It's Thunder Boy Jr. is named after his dad, but he wants a name that's all his own. Just because people call his dad Big Thunder doesn't mean he wants to be Little Thunder. He wants a name that celebrates something cool he's done, like Touch the Clouds, Not Afraid of 10,000 Teeth, or Full of Wonder. And as I was researching the book, I actually found out that Sherman Alexie this idea for this book actually came to him at his father's funeral, and that Alexi is actually also a junior. And he kind of talked about like his dad had like really great qualities, but you know, there's also some negative things. Like he said, his dad was super loving and was a gentleman, but he was also a lifelong alcoholic. So when he wrote this book, he kind of wanted it to be more of like the positive aspect, which I can definitely respect. You know, I'm assuming people, it kind of reminds me of like the whole Instagram thing where you kind of post your highlights. And if he's making this book, he kind of wants it to be something positive. And I'm sure because younger children are reading it, he wants it to be something like positive and not, you know, something sad. And he also kind of wrote it because he wants like like it's I guess the theme is like a child's desire to establish his own special quality. So in the book, like I mentioned, it's this little boy who kind of wants his own special, unique name. And I just think it's a cute book. And when I was reading it, I was like, this also would have been a really great one for our name topic, just because it talks about how he wants to pick his name and he goes through these different names that he would prefer. So our three questions. I kind of mentioned the who writes the stories. So I love that this book seems super authentic. The author and illustrator. I love that they're people of color and they are bringing representation. I think that's super important. The who benefits from the story. I think, you know, a lot of us do. I think like I was saying, people who are in the community and outside of the community, I think it's important to like feel special that, you know, this book is about your community, but I think also important to people who aren't in the community to see Indigenous people being represented in a children's book, in a cute children's book. You know, like I said, Sherman and Alexi wanted this to be something positive. So I really like that. And the who's missing from this story. So I really loved this book. When I finished reading it, I myself kind of thought, I wish it talked a little bit more about the Native American naming traditions, because I know it's something that's super important. And for example, my niece, I don't want to say her name because I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but my niece also has a Native American name, which I think is super special. And she's kind of mentioned a little bit about how she's gotten her name. And I just think it would have been really nice to kind of go a little deeper on that in this book. It kind of feels a little surface level to me.
Okay.
But it's hard because at the same time, I like that it's just showing these characters and it's not, it like brings me back to the whole topic of like, if Latinos are in books, do they always have to be talking about like Cesar Chavez, where it's like, if it's Native American, do they have to be talking about their traditions and things like that, where it's like, I'd love it if they did talk about it a little bit, but I'm also not mad that they didn't dig deeper. I think it's like a cute, lighthearted book. And there's so many activities you can do just similar with yours, where we're looking up you know, in our community, like what tribes were here, what tribes were around us, or even like looking into the Native American naming traditions and learning a little bit more about that, I think would be really great. But overall, like I really loved the book. I don't want to be a harsh critic, but I think it was good. The pictures are beautiful, and I think it's a cute story about a little boy.
Yeah. I actually read this story. Well, I didn't read it. Joe Lynn read it to us in our 108B class.
Yes, which makes sense why you guys recommended it now.
It's really cute, and so I like the idea of like, because it is like, I love the idea how he wants his own name and he wants it to be unique, and I also like that it wasn't like he was trying to Americanize his name either. I feel like sometimes when you get like when you get those books, it's like, oh, I don't want to be called Thunderboy Jr. because it's not like my friends' names. No, he wanted like a name that was still within his culture, but it's different. So I love that aspect about it. Like it's super cute. Yeah, but I love the book. I think it's cute.
And I actually love that you pointed that out because I hadn't thought about that. But I do really like the fact that he's still trying to keep that tradition going. And it's not like, oh, I don't like it or I don't like it because it's not American. So I think it's really special, and it makes Native American probably feel really great about their names and how unique it is. But yeah, it's a really cute book, and I really like it.
Yeah, no, and I think there's still a lot more books. I remember when I was like looking up books that we can include, there's a lot more books that have like a positive Native American image to them, and it's not just like your typical like stereotype, like some books that we have read in the past. And so it is that, seeing that when I was doing my research behind this makes me really happy that we are going in like the positive right direction when it comes to portraying other cultures in children's like literature.
Yeah, no, I think I kind of mentioned it multiple times, but I was so excited when I started researching to see how many books there are. And it's nice to see, because the whole Bitmoji classroom is a thing right now. I've actually seen a few teachers create like Indigenous people libraries where all the books are of like similar topics, and it's really nice to see and share, and it makes me happy to see it's being included more.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, I like that. It's a cute idea. Maybe if I had more time, I would do that to my books. But I think teaching is taking up my time right now.
I appreciate the people who have done it. So thank you.
Yes.
So I'll definitely have to share some with you. Should we go with our ending question? Our two ending challenge. But before I start, I definitely want to give a shout out. In our last episode, one of our ending challenges was to screenshot your like phone while you're listening to the podcast and share it on your story. And we had 2 people do it, Alyssa and Ariandi. So I really appreciate it. I appreciate anybody who's listening to this. It truly means a lot. I truly think Jocelyn and I are doing this because we love books and we love sharing books.
Yes.
It truly means a lot whenever somebody takes some time out of their day to listen, especially teachers, because I know we're so busy. So I really appreciate it. And thank you for participating in our challenge.
Yes. Yeah. So we love doing it. So do you want to do the ending question, or do you want to do the ending challenge? I'll do the question.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Then we were both going to say we want to do the ending question. So our ending question to you all is, how do you incorporate counter narratives into your curriculum? So I know that with some of us teaching, well, it's not really like history then, it's like more social science, like if you're teaching in elementary school, like how are you incorporating those and making sure that you are, one, incorporating the counter narratives, but also like letting your students know like these cultures are alive and well now and have not like completely been eradicated, and there's still positive views out there of these cultures. So it's like, how are you doing that in your classroom? What are you using children's literature? Are you bringing in research that you've done from your own, like on your own free time, and you found articles, or are you maybe having guest speakers? I think that'd be a really cool idea, now that I think about it, to have like a guest speaker from like any of the tribes to come speak in class, and just like, I can just think of like kids being like so amazed by that. But yeah, like, are you doing something like that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm actually really curious, and hopefully we get some people letting us know how they're doing it and what they're incorporating. And our ending challenge for this episode is to post a picture of your favorite book featuring Native American characters and tag us. So either maybe post it on Instagram or post it on your story, or leave a comment on our Facebook with the book title, because I definitely want to include more books into my library. I think this is something that kids need to be aware of and see, and it needs to be normal. And like I say, when we're researching this, we both found a lot of great books, but of course, I'm sure I missed some. So I would love to see what you guys have out there.
Absolutely. Well, until next time, it's always a pleasure to sit here and get to review these books and really bring awareness to all these amazing books that are out there. I feel like we just start getting like into a subject, and we realize that there is like a vast like ocean of all these other books that we have not even just grasped yet. So it's always a pleasure to do the research behind these books.
Yeah, which makes me excited, because it's like we were saying, there's so many other books, and it's kind of nice because I think when we think of this topic, like these 2 aren't the only books out there. I think we're just trying to bring or like highlight 2 books that we found that are really great. But again, like who knows, maybe in 6 months we do this topic again and we bring up more books. So I think it's great.
Yeah.
But I think, is this it? Is this where I end?
Yeah, this is it.
All right. So thank you everybody again for listening. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are on, I'm pretty sure, most major podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify. So it would really mean a lot if you guys subscribed, especially if you rate it. If you leave a review, please let us know. we've been stuck on the same review. I mean, the same like rating for a while. So I definitely want to bump up and get some more ratings, please.
Yes.
Leave a review, follow our YouTube. So we do record all of these. Of course, it's through Zoom, but you can see us, maybe see the books. Follow our Instagram where we post our challenge and question at _bookboat, and like us on Facebook for the book boat. But thank you everybody for listening, and I hope you have a great week.
Yes, thank you everyone. Until next time. Bye.